Newcastle United 4, Nottingham Forest 3. What a crazy game. What did I just witness? A game of two halves, and I'm going to talk all about it next. Right, starting off this video, Newcastle United in the first half were brilliant. I told you in my prediction video that the way Nottingham Forest play would invite Newcastle to have loads of chances, and that's exactly what happened. And Isak was brilliant, but somehow Newcastle conceded first, even though for the first 10 minutes Newcastle were doing better than Nottingham Forest. Newcastle still conceded, and the only flaw of the first half was Jacob Murphy making that mistake. In fact, Jacob Murphy throughout the entire game made a lot of mistakes, and on the sloppy passes in particular. His passing was off, he looked off, but overall, each time Newcastle went on the attack, it looked like Nottingham Forest were going to crumble. I mean, for the first few minutes, till the first goal, Nottingham Forest defended pretty well, but then it just stopped, as Newcastle had another chance going forward from a free kick, which eventually, Newcastle did really well to keep the ball, eventually came around, and Lewis Miley, brilliant goal. I mean, he wasn't properly facing the goal, he was facing side on, so the goal was just here, and he did really well to not shoot past one, but two Nottingham Forest players. Brilliant goal. And then Newcastle getting the second goal, although I don't think Murphy had a good game, in my opinion, especially in the first half, he somehow got himself a goal. That football, that link-up play, I mean, it was brilliant. Newcastle, absolutely fantastic. Isak was a thing of beauty for that goal. And Newcastle made it 2-1, and it was a space of 11 minutes when Newcastle got 4 goals. And then obviously the third goal, admittedly, was a terrible penalty by Alexander Isak. And Matt Sells looked comically bad for that penalty of not saving it. But was it a penalty? I think so. Could it be biased towards Newcastle? Maybe, but I really do feel like that was a penalty. If hitting the elbow counts as a handball, then it was a handball. When turning around like that, he could have easily put his hand down by his side. Let me know in the comments, do you agree with me? Was it a penalty? Because I think it was. But it was a terrible penalty by Isak. And then the goal after, brilliant by Isak. The fourth goal for Newcastle, and actually the last goal happened in the first half. But the reason why Newcastle was so dominant was because of the style of players of both clubs. Eddie Howe went into this game of saying, right, I know exactly how to counter Nottingham Forest's counter-attacking football, and that's through possession-based football and being relentless in the attack. I mean, the energy was there. Compared to the Man City game, Newcastle had all the energy. And because Nottingham Forest was just sitting back with a low block, it invited chances towards them. And because Isak isn't a normal striker, he is a multi-dimensional striker. It meant Isak could literally rip open the defence of Nottingham Forest. Not just him. The passing of Newcastle were brilliant between Gordon, Isak, Lewis Hall, Lewis Miley. It was brilliant, and they couldn't handle the amount of pace that was coming at them. And because they couldn't actually get the ball in Newcastle's half for that long and couldn't actually get into the penalty box to make a touch into the penalty box at all till maybe like the end of the first half, it meant Newcastle could be in control of the game. And the reason why they couldn't get into the penalty box was because Newcastle defended brilliantly to isolate Chris Wood in a little pocket into a completely different world. I mean, Chris Wood got no touches on the ball, it felt like. In fact, throughout the entire game, it felt like Chris Wood did diddly squat. Newcastle did really well to defend him, particularly Lewis Hall. His defending was outstanding. Each time Nottingham Forest were on the counter-attack, he came in, running from the left side into the middle, slide tackle, got him. He didn't allow anyone to get past. Fabian Schär made easy interceptions from over-the-top balls that just weren't working. Newcastle knew how to defend Nottingham Forest. Because they had none of the ball, it means they couldn't make many chances, especially when they get the chances, the small chances that they get, especially when that happens, if they can't actually advance into the penalty box because Newcastle are defending really well and Lewis Hall is really good and Eddie Howe structurally plans his defence really well, that means Nottingham Forest can't score. Obviously, they did score that one goal, brilliant goal by Hudson-Odoi, but that's just through terribleness from Jacob Murphy. That was just awful. I thought it was a brilliant plan by Eddie Howe, a great tiki-taka style football. It was brilliant. That's how I want Newcastle to play. Obviously it is. Nottingham Forest just could not handle Newcastle's way of playing. I told you in my predictions that Newcastle will be gifted more chances than normal because of the way Nottingham Forest play. It's just the way they play, the low block and counter-attacking. All you have to do is stop their goal threat, Chris Wood, stop them going on the counter-attacks, and that's it. And Newcastle did exactly that, like they did in the reverse fixture against Nottingham Forest. They isolated Chris Wood, made it so barely any players could get into Newcastle's penalty box and get a touch on it. It was brilliant. It just felt like each time Nottingham Forest went on the counter-attack, their pass would just fizzle out through an interception or something. It didn't feel like they had any options when going on the counter-attack. That's how well Newcastle defended. That's why they did so well, because they had loads of the ball. Newcastle had loads of the ball. Nottingham Forest didn't have enough of the ball to actually create more than one goal. But I'm speaking like Newcastle won this 4-1. Now we move on to the second half. Oh my gosh, a lot happened in the second half. They say it's a game of two halves, and well it is. Other than a Fabian Schär hitting the crossbar, it was a game of two halves because Nottingham Forest did really well. The one good thing I like from Espirito Santos is he always likes playing the low block than counter-attacking football, okay? He always does. But if it's not working, which it definitely wasn't, you're going to have to change it up. And that's exactly what he did. He changed it up. Nottingham Forest were controlling the game a bit more. They started to get out from that proper low block and actually push against Newcastle's defence. And they were the dominant side in the second half. And they scored 2 goals from 2 set pieces. Brilliant by Nottingham Forest. A great tactical change of plan by Espirito Santos. Honestly, it was brilliant. That's why he's a good manager. Even though Nottingham Forest lost, I was surprised on how they managed to come back in the second half like that. But I still feel like I was right in my prediction. I predicted it 2-1 between Newcastle United and Nottingham Forest, and it was 4-3. I was right it was going to be a close game, and I was right that Newcastle will win and play better than they did against Man City, because Newcastle, the way they play, is more accustomed to and can counter the way Nottingham Forest play. And I just thought overall, Newcastle looked brilliant. But the second half, Newcastle didn't. It really didn't. For the goals that Nottingham Forest scored, okay, what I don't understand is Newcastle defended Nottingham Forest really well in the first half. Number one, why didn't they play exactly the same style of football in the second half? Number two, why were all Newcastle players standing still for both of the Nottingham Forest goals? And also in the second half, Newcastle were panicking. Newcastle lost their heads, they lost their composure. Dan Burn lost the ball multiple times in the second half. And Nottingham Forest were literally doing the identical thing that Newcastle were doing. And in the second half, at least for the majority of it, till maybe near the end of the second half, Isak had 0 touches, not in the penalty box, but in the entire Nottingham Forest half. Isak, the player that played brilliantly in the first half. I mean, overall, Newcastle, this season, it's been a roller coaster ride. It genuinely has been, and it's been like that for a lot of teams. And this game could have easily been a draw, but when comparing the first half and second half, it may be a bit biased, but I felt like when Newcastle were the dominant side in the first half, I felt like they did it better than Nottingham Forest did. I know there was something about it that looked more threatening. I think it's because of Isak. It made it look more threatening. And can I say, Isak and Aina, my God, throughout the entire game, both of them were hustling and tussling and really putting in a great shift. And Elliot Anderson, I thought, had a decent game for Nottingham Forest as well. But Chris Wood literally did diddly squat. And I think that's when Newcastle did good all game, is to just silence off Chris Wood. That's what you have to do. You have to target the target man. The defence has to target the target man, and that's Chris Wood. Pretty much, it was pointless Chris Wood being there. I say that, I'm pretty sure he did get assist for one of the goals. But still, you know what I mean. He was definitely quieter than normal. And overall, I think Newcastle United deserved that win, purely on the first half performance. Also, near the end, it really did get tight. It really did turn around. There was like 6 or 7 Newcastle Nottingham Forest players all in a circle right near the end, like the 92nd or 93rd minute, really hustling and tussling for that ball. I couldn't see the ball because there were so many players grouped in such a small surface area. And then obviously Callum Wilson came on, and Newcastle nearly topped it off with a 5th goal. 2 chances Wilson had, despite barely being on the pitch. So I think Eddie Howe did really well. Newcastle did really well. But there's still problems. It's not perfect. You can evidently see Newcastle look brilliant, but also meh at the same time, because the amount of times Newcastle lost the ball in that game was crazy. I am going to congratulate Nottingham Forest despite a loss, because I thought it was a great change of pace in the second half. At Newcastle, I thought you also had a good game. And overall, was it fun to watch? Yes, it was. Much more fun to watch than the Man City game. Definitely much more fun to watch. But where does this put Newcastle on the table? Newcastle are now 5th. Nottingham Forest is still 3rd. But to be honest, there's only 3 points between them. And I'm still confident that Newcastle can hit top 4. So that's how Newcastle United won the game. But if you want to see more in-depth player ratings, then check this next video that I'm about to punch you to. And of course, if the video isn't there, then watch the video that is there. But if it's not there, then it should be there in just a mo. So, toodle pip, up the tune!